You know the quote by Steve Jobs that goes, "Do what makes my heart sing." I don't like it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not the sentiment I don't like, it's the flowery language. You might have noticed I'm Scottish, and we say it like it is. So here's what I prefer. Do what puts a fire in your gut. A bit more gritty. But here's the thing. What if we don't know what puts that fire in our gut? Where do we find it? We're taught from a young age to use external benchmarks as a guide. So let me take you back 20 years and tell you a story about someone who looked for their passion in the externals. It's Monday morning, it's 9 AM, and a young girl sitting at her desk in her office. She's drawn a line down a sheet of paper, headed law, pros on one side and cons on the other. But she knows how this is going to play out because she's done it before. There's only one con, and it's that something's missing. Something is not quite right. And it's bizarre because everything up until that point had led to a career in law. She followed all the same external benchmarks that all her friends did, that everyone did. She sought a job with a good income, one that her family and her school advised was desirable, and one that she was exactly fitted to on paper. She was always going to be a lawyer. So why now, only 3 years, 3 short years into a legal career, was she wondering, what's missing, what's wrong, what am I going to do now? It took me 2 decades and 3 careers to find the answer to that question. And I want to share that journey with you today and the lessons that I've taken away from it and hopefully help you or maybe somebody that you know. Here's what I've learned about the externals. Whilst admittedly a designer suit, yeah, it feels good, feels nice. Not this one. It feels good, as does a title, but it's fleeting, it's transient happiness. It's like an elastoplast that covers over an empty gap, but it doesn't fill that gap. That's not where we find fulfilment. And I'm not lying. A title, it's quite seductive. It brings instant credibility when you tell somebody you work in a profession. So, do you remember when you graduated from university, or it might be somebody in your family, and they gained an instant new surname? Let me give you a tip. It's usually in a profession. So, John the doctor, my son, Jim the lawyer, my daughter, Jane the dentist, the parents, the grandparents, they love to boast, don't they? But actually, I don't think we fully recognise the effect that that feeling puts upon us and how difficult it is that, albeit we know it's not providing passion, it's really hard to step away from it and leave it behind. But what I found more interesting was that in aligning my skills and strengths to what I thought was the ultimate career for me, I didn't even find passion there. Can you think of a sport or a skill or even a board game that you're really, really good at, but you hate it? And I mean hate it. You're like, no, I'm not doing that ever. The same rule applies in work as it does in life. And this came as a surprise to me, and probably many of you. Just because you're good at something, and you could do it, and you could do it really well, doesn't mean that you should do it. So if we accept that we're not necessarily and probably won't find the answer in the externals, where do we look? The answer's fairly obvious. Internally, to the gut. And for some, that may involve a bit more self-reflection, self-awareness, a journey. It can be a bit icky. It can be a bit difficult. But that's a whole other talk and an area that's been covered vastly by others. So we'll put that to one side. Right about now, this is where you're expecting a big secret, isn't it? The reveal. I found the key to finding your passion. And I did. Here's the secret I found. I thought I was going to share a process with you too. I so firmly thought that there was a secret, or a process, if you will, that I thought, okay, looking back over the 2 decades, I will find a process I was unwittingly following, and I'm going to deliver that to you, because that's what everybody wants, is it? You want a takeaway. You want a 3-step process, a quick fix, a magic pill. It's like the health and fitness industry. It's booming. We all want a quick fix. We want to throw money at something and that'll give us the answer. Have you ever looked up what might be the best career for you, or even done a test in a magazine or a quiz, or asked people that you know or in the pub? Well, my research shows that most people have done it at some point in their life. And that's because you, and we, and all of them, believe there's a quick fix. And the danger in that is it can really hold you back from getting to your passion sooner. It can draw your attention away from the flickering flame that's there. And worse, it could make you completely lose it altogether. You might not find the passion at all. So, where to go now? There isn't any quick fix. There's no magic pill. I found some answers somewhere else. I held 3 really strong assumptions about how it was going to play out when I found my passion, because I always thought I would find it somehow. And I'm a fairly open-minded person. I'm fairly flexible, liberal. But actually, these assumptions were really ingrained. They were deeply embedded within me. And again, these assumptions, I can now see, they cost me years of not finding it sooner. And for many, I know it actually completely prevents them from finding their passion. I had assumptions about how it would happen, how it would feel, and how it would look when I found my passion. And these assumptions were completely, well, wrong. And they turned out to be myths. So here's the reality. I thought that when I found my passion, and you're going to laugh and it's a bit embarrassing, I would wake up one day and I would have a light bulb moment and I would know with absolute certainty what I was meant to do on this earth, and I would walk towards it and I would do it forevermore. I'm a bit of a romantic at heart. We all are a wee bit sometimes. But that's the dream we're sold by the media, by social media, by the movies, and we want to believe it. And actually, looking back, I did believe it. But that's not how it happened for me, nor for anyone I know. Here's how it actually happened. There was a journey, and then there was a struggle. 6 years after qualifying as a lawyer and training in practice, I had my daughter, Abby. And unlike many of us, she knew what her passions were and what they were not. And unfortunately, it was not nursery. She was very sure of that. So I took a career break, and 10 months later, I had my son, Ben. Don't say I'm not efficient. And 10 months after that, I started lecturing postgraduate legal students. So how did that happen? We'll look at that for a minute. By stepping both mentally and physically out of the law, I had gained the space and the room, if you will, to see that actually what I'd loved about the law was the clients. Now, it's not earth-shattering news to say I craved a connection. It's well established. We all crave connection to a point. But I also loved building the relationships. I loved helping them, solving their problems. But I hadn't had enough of that. There was too much deal time and not enough contact time. So it was a natural progression to go into lecturing and help students progress from university to working life. And I loved it. It was great. Until one day, you know, when somebody asks you a question that seems innocuous to them, and actually it really sets the cogs going. One of my students said, "Why are you not practicing law anymore? You seem so passionate and ambitious and driven when you talk about it." And I was, because I was passionate about helping them. But I couldn't answer the question because I felt like a fraud. Do you know that feeling? Has anyone ever felt it? You feel sick. It's like you're selling something that you don't fully believe in. And I'd left a career that I was now assisting these students to enter, and I'd left it because I hadn't found fulfilment in it. So I knew I was getting closer to the flame because I'd felt greater passion in the teaching and the helping the students. But I had to find a better vehicle through which to use that. So what do we do when someone says, "What are your interests? What do you love to do?" We write a list. So I set about writing a list. Have you ever done this? It's hilarious. And I bet we're all the same. I was like, I like the cinema, I like travel, basically holidays, health and fitness, maybe not everyone's on board with that, and cooking. Oh, cooking. And I thought I might retrain as a chef. Seriously, our mind goes crazy. These things are not that useful. So I sat back and I looked at the list, and what do you think I did next? I picked up the phone and I phoned my old law firm and I went back to the law. I moved further away from the flame again. The scales tipped downwards. Why? Why did I do this? It was madness. 3 years it cost me. Because on reading the list, my heart didn't sing. It didn't feel like I thought it would, visualising me being in health and fitness. And Steve said my heart would sing, but it didn't. So I ripped up the list and I went back to law. And 3 years later, when I was finally totally and utterly scunnered, I finally had the courage to leave the law and enter the world of health and fitness. In that time, I had requalified around the edges of working in law and motherhood in all the fitness qualifications, and I'd created my own class called FuseFit. And I was accepted onto a business accelerator course called Entrepreneurial Spark. And it was there, only 2 years ago from now, that I finally nailed it. I found it. I knew exactly what my passion was. So the first task we had to do in this course was write our mission statement. Have we done this? Every business should have one. So I wrote mine down. And Kevin, my advisor, said, no, it's pants, that's not it, go away and do it again. I couldn't even get that right. There's a theme here, isn't there? A lot of mistakes. So I went home, went into my study, disappeared in my dressing gown, in hundreds and hundreds of sheets of paper like a mad woman, dug out all my old feedback forms for my classes. So I had hundreds of them. And I was searching through them because I wanted to see, you know, what resonated with me. But I knew what I was looking for. There was one client who had said, FuseFit is my happy place. And I loved this. And I loved it more than the marketable comments. The ones that said, it's the best fitness class I've ever been to. I'm the fittest I've ever been. I've lost 1.5 stone. People love that. But no, FuseFit is my happy place. And I realised, actually, that finding my passion was not actually how I thought it would look either. It wasn't a grand, magical moment, as I thought it would. I wasn't destined for human rights law to practice in the European Court of Justice. But actually, it was something far less impressive, and something, quite frankly, that could have been written by Walt Disney. I wanted to help people become happier. So not just help, but help them become happier in their lives. And frankly, it was underwhelming. But even though it seemed underwhelming at the time, as the days and weeks passed, everything started to click into place after I'd found it. And it's just that it hadn't happened the way I thought it would, I hadn't felt the way I thought it would, and it didn't look as I thought it would. But none of that mattered because I'd found it. I was doing it. I am doing it. And I knew what lit my fire. And I knew the feeling. It's when a mum says to me, I've got my mojo back, and I'd lost it for years. She's in tears at the end of a class or a session. And I can see them walking away brighter, happier, lighter, not just in weight. That's when I get the feeling. But I don't feel like my heart's singing. I don't feel like what I was searching for. I know it might look like it. That's the media-friendly picture. How I do feel, for me, is I get in the car and I blast a bit of Eminem at full volume. And I feel like I've kicked the shit out of the day. And it feels really, really good. So if you've not found your passion yet, and it's okay if you've not, let me leave you with a quote of my own. Lose the assumptions, find the fire. Thanks for listening.